We have kind of a unique combination. Earlier on, people were talking about networks and ecosystems. I think we got them a group here sitting because we're going from brand owners to an aggregator to retailers. And let me just quickly jump in with a quick question to start off with, which is, we heard a lot of things today. If there's one thing that keeps you awake at night right now in your particular area, that you say, that is the one that troubles me the most in the F&B sector, what would it be? Let me start with the lady in the middle.
Ladies first. Thank you very much, Alexander. From my perspective, obviously, I work predominantly here in the Gulf region. However, I have a UK background and UK based, and we work with a number of brands and manufacturers who are looking to enter the region here in the GCC. And I would say, from my perspective, where I see a lot of issues and what keeps me up and what I'm seeing from the brands that we work with is there is a lot of issues from a public health perspective that continue to grow around the world, global issues, and particularly here in this region, predominantly related to metabolic health. And I feel like these are still growing issues and ones that need to be addressed in the future on a number of levels.
Now, if I go to a brand perspective, Haseeb, if I may go to Friesland Campina, of course, as a Dutchman, I've been hurt this morning by learning that Gouda cheese does not come out of my native country. I'm happy to know that at least bell peppers, we're still the largest exporter of bell peppers. But from cheese side, it kind of leads into you. What keeps you awake at night? What do you see as the key challenges?
Thank you, Alexander. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So what keeps me up at night is really the commoditization of brands that we're seeing. And it was quite opportune. The previous speaker who came in spoke to us about how volume is going down, on how penetration in some areas is going down, and how while value is growing, that value is not being pocketed by the manufacturers or the retailers. That value is actually the crippling inflation that all of us have been coping up with for the past couple of years. So I think it reminds me of the time back in 2008 and 9 when I was in the UK. There was a lot of promotions, discounts, deals, bargains, buy one, get one free. And we ended up educating consumers to buy on price and on deals. And it takes a long time to build a brand, to build the equity, to build the perception of that brand. And I think right now the industry generally, and I'm not talking specifically the UAE, but generally in the region and in Europe as well, we see a huge commoditization of brands going on.
Okay, so let me then jump to Hunter, also a brand owner. Do you see a similar thing happening on your side? And how do you push back on that, if indeed that keeps you awake?
For us, what we're seeing is extreme competition. I think more than ever, the competition is much stronger than it ever was. We sell into 55 countries, but we don't feel the competition the way it is in Dubai. I think what's exciting is the market here is transforming very, very quickly, especially in the last few years. It's gone from being the Middle East gateway to being the global gateway. And with that, we see the population changing very quickly and growing. But being such a great test market, 200 nationalities with 200 different types of tastes, we see that retailers are bringing in more products from so many different parts of the world to adapt to those tastes. We're also seeing the rise in private label. We're seeing all the companies from around the world wanting to come and gain a bigger market share in a place like the UAE, which is becoming more important in the global environment. And in that, to actually become a lot bigger and gain market share is becoming that much more difficult. Now, we're very excited about this environment, but it is always trying to work out how can we partner better with all the stakeholders, especially the retailers, and grow our importance together with them.
Well, that's a beautiful lead, I guess, to the retailers. Niels, let me start with you from Union Coop. On the side of branding, brand competition, what do you see from your side, and what keeps you awake from that perspective?
Good afternoon. If I look at the points what keeps me awake during the night, I think the most important point is how to stay relevant for your customers, basically, in this ever-changing environment. There are a lot of things happening in the market, changing consumer behavior, the whole trend towards I would say, the digital space. So finding and staying connected with the customer and making sure that they keep basically prioritizing you as their preferred go-to place is, I think, one of the biggest challenges we have.
Okay. Hey, and Tom, then your side as well. I guess we heard a little bit in a previous statement about hard discounters around premium placed. We hear about fierce competition, brand. How do you look at that from a Spinneys perspective?
Yeah, I think the evolution of competition is definitely the thing for me. It is, you know, we have the hard discounters, we've got a breadth within retail, but the evolution of competition for me is looking actually beyond just the share of trade within the retail segment and looking at share of stomach. So one of the biggest learnings when we had the lockdowns in COVID was we were gaining business because people couldn't eat out. And actually as things normalized, it was because people were going out again. So different meal occasions, different providers of different meal occasions are actually increasingly something that we focus on and look at how a Deliveroo sending a pizza to somebody's house is as much of a competitive threat and a competitive opportunity for us as me trying to worry about what Niels is doing in his stores.
Okay, all right. And so we have intense competition. We're looking, people are trying to differentiate. The word sustainability has come up many a time. What I'm interested in is to explore with you what kind of sustainability initiatives are you taking in your respective areas, and can you give a practical example of something that you're doing right now that's not just good for now, but that you would say in 5 or 10 years from now, we will see still that same benefit for the actions that we're taking. If I can, Ananya, if I can start with you this time?
Sure. On the immediate basis, I mean, we're looking at starting with packaging, how to have 100% recyclable packaging. And we've started on that journey already with our superfoods range of product, but we are moving that across all our products. When it comes to efficiency in the carbon footprint, we're really looking at that for all our delivery vehicles. But we're in the process of building a new factory, a new state-of-the-art factory, which should be ready next year. And with that, that's where we can really bring in a lot of the initiatives, because when we start from scratch. So,
can you give me an example?
So whether it's solar, whether it's we make potato chips. Potato is 75% water. So how are we going to reuse that water rather than just putting it back into the ground? And so we are looking at vertical farming and using a lot of those vegetables, and our plans are to sell it back into the community, or work with the community for the vegetables that will grow using the water from the potato. Things have been brought up earlier about the biodiesel. We use a lot of oil to fry. That oil, how do you convert that oil into the diesel to run our trucks?
Okay.
So it is using every part of anything that we use and recycling it back, upcycling to wherever it's possible. And so it is about efficiency, it is about buying locally. Those are things we can do now. But then how do we really change things fundamentally as the way we run our business? That's what we're working on now.
Okay. Well, I think that whenever there is a new site that you're building, it's a great opportunity to design with the environment in mind, right? Because you're not dealing with legacy systems. If I can go, Haseeb, to you, if you would have to pick maybe something that is further downstream in your product range, any examples you can think of from your perspective on the environment, sustainability?
Indeed, there's a lot of work we do upstream as well, but I'll talk about something we're actually doing here in the UAE that we're really proud of. So a few years ago, we started working with the Ministry of Environment. They helped us get in touch with a few companies on can collection. So we sell a brand called Rainbow, Abucos, and we started collecting cans from first 10 tea shops. And we got such a great response that we then went up to 25 tea shops and we started expanding. And what was quite exciting that within a span of, I think, around 6 months, last year, we ended up collecting, and I was just pulling out the numbers to make sure that I quote them correctly, we did 23 times the height of Burj Khalifa. So if you add up all the cans together and you look at 23 Burj Khalifas, that's what we did last year. And of course, we got very excited. So this year, we went full gung-ho, and we've done 9 times the height of Mount Everest. And my target to the team now is we need to break into the stratosphere. So if you add up all the cans that we're recycling, we should break the barrier of 100 kilometers, which is where the Kármán line is, and Earth and the stratosphere start. So I think it's quite exciting. There's a lot we can do from our side. Apart from whatever we're doing at a global level, we're immensely proud of working with the UAE government. I know there's some ministry people sitting here. They've been absolutely pivotal in helping us, supporting us, and getting us to collaborate with other companies. And this is a very UAE example, by the way. Within our company, we're quoted as a best practice, where other operating companies are looking at what's happening in the UAE and adopting these practices in other regions. So that's a contribution from our side.
Well, it's a wonderful example indeed, where you have a product in the private sector taking responsibility from the end product actually to get it back. If I just jump to retailers, Tom, if I can jump to you, similar things, environmental, what's going on within your area?
Yeah, similar things, but I think we take a much more broad look at sustainability. Sustainability for us isn't just about the environmental aspects, it's about the consumer aspects as well, and fundamentally underpinning everything, it's about the sustainability of the business. So we will look at it and focus on how we can be reducing waste, how we can be reusing products. So simple things that we do now, which are helping to build a culture within the business for 5 to 10 years, is the fruit that is coming to the end of its life. When we close the stores down at the end of the day, that fruit goes into the kitchen at the back and it gets turned into juice. That is taking something that was waste and is turning it into profit. And that is creating a fantastic culture within the stores of starting to think about how can we repurpose products? How can we stop wasting? We're looking at it as well from a consumer perspective and saying, look, some of the practices that go on within our total supply chain are not sustainable from a consumer perspective. To Victoria's point about health, there is still so much product that we are innovating and developing as a supply chain every year, which is terrible for our customers' health. We're literally killing customers for 5 to 10 years from now. And if we don't change some of these practices, so what we do with our own private label is think about not only the packaging and how that can be recycled or reused, but what are the ingredients going in? Are these actually meeting the health needs that we know are a problem today? We've got the highest diabetes in the world in this country, yet we're still seeing major brands launch products which they will describe as nutritious, a breakfast cereal with 25% sugar. That's not sustainable either. So we're looking at all of those aspects of how that all comes together, environmental, customer, health, and that fundamentally underpins a sustainable business.
So are you making that decision for your consumers then? Because that sounds like you're making a decision. If I want sugary cornflakes, certainly that's up to me to decide, no?
It is absolutely up to you. So what we're making sure is that customers have got an informed choice. So I still sell that cereal with 25% sugar in it, because if the customer wants that, that's absolutely fine. That is a consumer's choice. But I have a responsibility to also make sure that the customers have got an informed choice to see that there are other healthy products, that there are items that come out and that they can see are more environmentally sustainable, and they've got the option.
Okay, all right. From a union co-op perspective, sustainability, environmental, similar things?
I think a lot of overlap to what Tom is saying. We do see a lot of, I would say, low-hanging fruit opportunities to reduce, for example, energy, to optimize our delivery schedules. We are very much looking forward to engage more with local producers, to reduce the carbon footprint when it comes to the import of products. So there is quite a lot of things going on.
Okay. If I can then, Victoria, go to you, because I know I've seen your stand here. You seem to have this environmental, ethical, right thing that's right up your alley, right? Say a bit more about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me and what we do as a business, we're very conscious about who we work with and the brands that we support to enter into the market. And it is about giving that healthier option to consumers, and giving a choice, I think, is really, really important. There needs to be, from my perspective, more choice available. I'm aware, we know that the price is always an issue, and we've heard about inflation. Obviously, that's coming down now in the region. That's going to help. But, you know, there's still, from my perspective, there needs to be more choice on the shelves in terms of, people will say there is, but choice that really has got the benefit of the consumer in mind, in terms of healthier ingredients, better sustainable products that are available as well. And I think there's more to do. There's certainly, when we look at some of the European brands that we work with and support, what they're doing and what they're able to offer in their domestic markets, whilst there's been some amazing strides happening here in the UAE, I would still say there's still much more that can be done, and that should continue to be done on a number of levels. If I think, just to take one example, with one of the brands I work with, a fantastic brand, we've consumer tested it across the region. It gets great feedback. However, some of their credentials and values in terms of compostable packaging just cannot be translated here. The recyclable nature of it, again, is difficult to physically bring into the marketplace and deliver on the values of that brand on that basis as well. So I think still more to do, although good things are obviously starting to happen here from what I've seen over the years.
Yeah, I think that's certainly on the packaging side, and responsible packaging, and I think people are, we heard earlier on the discussion about the cradle to grave and the carbon footprint. I think one of the key challenges that sometimes people take a snapshot and they optimize that one bit, not thinking about the full areas.
Alex, can I jump in on the packaging, because something I know you and I have talked about off stage before with the packaging is how important it is not to have this anti-plastic agenda. Which has become such a populist thing. It is actually such an incredibly dangerous sustainability strategy if people are just going, we're going to get rid of all plastic. It's just about the worst thing you can do.
Well, and yes, indeed, we have had this discussion before. It's a human behavior issue, plastic, and it's a recycling standard. And I think that's where the biggest challenge, I think, for companies and the government is to figure that part out. So yeah, that's an entire debate on its own, Tom. Completely agree. The next thing I'd just like to shift to for a second is consumer behavior, because most of the markets where people operate, very often there is a particular consumer behavior. But as we also saw on the data, Kantar, this morning, it is the UAE is a fantastic combination of all these nations, backgrounds. It's really a color palette. If we take a look at that, and if you take a look at what's happening demographically here, but maybe also in the larger region that you operate, what do you see happening, and what do you think are the key elements to pay attention to in the next, again, I'll take 5 to 10 years. Haseeb, if I may start you.
So I think that's a great question. It really depends on which market you're talking about, which brand you're talking about, and which segment you're talking about. So I mean, there's multiple iterations to that too. So just to give you a case in point, for us in the UAE, it's a lot about evaporated milk. There's a lot of new people coming in, so educating them about the usage of evaporated milk, especially the beloved karak for all of those who are over here. A lot of people don't know karak if they're outside the UAE, so really instituting that culture of drinking is something we would do here. But when it comes to Morocco, then it's a lot about cooking, and it's about ensuring that Moroccan mums or the Moroccan cooks have the right kind of tools available to them to cook the dishes that they want. Whereas in Iraq, if you're working there, it's a lot about distribution, about convenience, about giving the right entry packs, making sure the propositions are fitting to the value of the consumer. So there's a lot of demographic changes happening. There's no one size fits all. I think we've got certain global principles principles, and then we work with each local market, applying those principles specific to the brand, specific to the campaign that we're working on. The principle being, to what the previous speaker was talking about, driving penetration. So the ultimate objective is about driving penetration, but how you do it, what techniques you use, what formats you deploy, they vary from market to market and from product to product.
Okay, so I guess from your perspective, there's a large geographic range, a large portfolio of products. Certainly, potato chips must be different, right? It's very easy, hit at everybody, or tell me about, is there segmentation there? How does that work?
So what we're finding is, and we've seen that over some of the presentations yesterday and today, is people are upgrading from having more mass scale snacking to something which is more mass gourmet or mass premium. So something which is healthier, something with cleaner, clean label, better ingredients. So people are willing to pay more, people are wanting that. Even myself, as a diabetic, I'm not allowed to, well, I shouldn't have so much ice cream. If I'm gonna have one ice cream in the week, it better be a bloody good one, because I'm not gonna have another one, right? So, and I think a lot of consumers are being more picky, but they are upgrading their choices, and that's an exciting place for us to be, because we are focusing a lot on the better for you and on the mass premium, not on the mass. And so it's an exciting time. But with that comes a lot of competition, because everyone also sees that change happening. So also the big boys also want to jump on that bandwagon. So what was a niche is now becoming the new mass.
Yeah, we saw a little bit in the presentation before. They were talking about the niche was actually winning against the big brands, right? So that's consumer and consumer mix. Niels, jumping to you for a second. What do you see with Coop? What do you see how you need to market differently, or how you need to position yourself different in that arena?
We definitely see an increased focus from our consumers on convenience, the healthy range, the organic range. The origin of the products becomes more and more important, where it has been produced, the way the shoppers are going through the stores. I would say the online aspect is there, of course. So in the end, I would say the customer do get more demanding, where everything before was a habit. Now they are more open to change, and they are looking around in the market what is available. Everything becomes more transparent. So I would say the battle for the consumer is there. And as a retailer, you do have the role to play a role, especially also on the educational part for the consumer. Explain why certain products are healthier. You want to increase the public health in general. So these are probably the main focus points I have seen around the consumer.
Consumer, Tom, your side?
Yeah, we certainly see the UAE in particular changing rapidly. As Ananya has already mentioned, you know, the variety of different countries, or consumers from different countries now calling this place home is just accelerating at such a phenomenal rate. And we're seeing with that a very significant shift in demands and a real sort of divergence of people focused towards either you need to be the best in value or you need to be the best in quality. And being in the middle is probably quite a dangerous place to be if you're not fitting into that. What we're also seeing, which I guess is a plea from me to our suppliers in the audience, is despite the fact that there's this divergence and this huge range of differing needs with the consumers, there continues to be a lot of a focus from some of the brands on a very generic way of activating to consumers, and a real lack of understanding that the needs of the consumers in Niels' store versus mine versus others in the market are entirely different. And if we're not talking to specific audiences coming to specific retailers or focused on specific brands and trying to be very generalist, nobody's going to get the cut through with the consumer in the way that they really want to.
So I hear this information consumer. Ultimately, when people walk into the store and they buy a brand, we hear this transparency. I think, Niels, you touched upon it. Everybody can compare anything. I can buy it in one shop, another shop. I can have it delivered to me. I can order it over the E. So as time goes on, where do you see this going? Do you see things going because of the transparency, everything becomes a commodity? Or do you say, no, it's the opposite. Actually, brands are going to, because of that, brands would disappear a bit. Or do you see the opposite? Brands are becoming more important. How do you take a look at that? Let's just walk down the line.
So, listen, I'm quite hopeful. I think we are going through unusual times, as we all know. We've experienced the past 4 years, which, maybe in the past 2 decades or 3 decades, the past 4 years have been so unusual that you can't even compare them with that. So I do think we're going through very strange times. I do think in the longer term, transparency, openness will lead to better decision making by consumers. I think for sure that there's no doubt in my mind about that. But in the short term, when people's pockets are squeezed, when their incomes are squeezed, electricity bills are going up, other commodities are going up, so people are choosing on price. And of course, then when they compare, they only look price as a major lever. I think as we heard in the previous session, inflation is abating. Things are becoming normal, and we hope that they do become normal over the longer term. I think consumers generally shift back to the average behavior, which is choosing on quality, choosing on price. So I'm quite hopeful. I think one should always have hope and keep gunning towards doing the right things.
From your side, Ananya?
I think the key word for me is communication. And it's a right message to the right customer at the right time. And that's different, just like what Tom was saying, the messaging has to be different. But it starts with the product and the purpose and how the product is differentiated versus everyone else. So can't communicate, you can't have the same promotion you have on Talabat versus a Spinneys versus Union Co-op. The messaging would also be different because the consumer is different, or what they're buying the product for at that point in time. The occasion might be different. So that communication becomes very important. If we don't differentiate the brand and build the brand at this time more than ever, then it does become a commodity. And if it does, then the branding isn't important anymore.
Okay, so but if I take a look at communication, depending on where your store is, I go to the retailers for a second, you will have a different audience coming in, right? Certainly, you can't communicate to every specific customer of one in every location. Don't you have to make it a cluster? Tom, Niels, your view?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's still going to be an amount of generalization, but when you're segmenting down and actually starting to look by the needs of a different retailer and a consumer that's going on, to Ananya's point, there's a different mission. It's not exactly a well-kept secret. People don't come to Spinneys because they're trying to buy things cheaply. And therefore people aren't coming in to buy things that are on big promotions. What they want to be coming in is finding something new, something they can't get elsewhere. So the way that we would communicate with our customers is be focusing on, this is exclusive. You can only buy this from Spinneys, whereas somewhere else it might be about, look, this is fabulous value. So I think if you can just segment it down to understanding the customer base by retailer, you can get to a good enough level of intimate communication with the hundreds of thousands of people that we're each serving every week to be relevant and to actually trigger a response in the consumer in that store.
Okay, so Victoria, from your side then, if you take a look at you're an aggregator to a certain extent, you talk to different brands, you bring that then to the market. How does that communication work for you with the retailer or with the end consumer for that matter?
Yeah, I think the whole thing around fit is something that's been echoed here on a number of levels, and that's what I always talk about between retailers, brands and manufacturers, distributors, all the partners and stakeholders with whom we work, it's really important to understand the retailer strategies and whether the products that you might be working with or supporting or consulting fit with that retailer and that retailer strategy. And also on a maybe regional level, is there fit within the positioning of your product, the values of your product with specific markets? I mean, we've touched on price here as well, and again, depending on the demographics and the consumers, having a fit and a bespoke and more personalised strategy for different markets. So I'm talking with the wider GCC and the Gulf, that needs to be, you need to bear in mind the demographics, the purchasing power, the retailers within those specific markets and the channels, and not forgetting just bricks and mortar retailers, obviously the place of the online retailers that are growing, and understanding and mapping that all out is really important, and not taking a generic broad brush approach and just thinking I have this product to sell into this region. It doesn't work like that, and you know it's all about that fit for the channel, the retailer, the pricing, your USPs, and if, as a branded manufacturer, that might also be adapted from one market to another, one retailer to another. So it's just being as personalised and customised as possible, but also still being able to appeal to enough people within those specific segments as well.
Niels, you see the same thing within Union Coop, I presume, and can you give an example maybe of a communication element where you say this is really targeted, or how we try to do that?
Obviously, as a retailer, I believe you should have a, let's say, a general proposition, being spread quite over Dubai. We are using various tools to make the showroom tailored to the specific location, both on assortment as well as the availability of certain pricing structures. We have, for example, a relatively small showroom in Satwa, which is completely different than The Point, which is completely different than Jumeirah. So we do have quite a challenge there, to be honest, to make sure that our products are in line with the requirements and the needs of the specific area. But there are quite some interesting tools available. If you, for example, look at AI or these kind of things to support you in this matter. So in general, as Union Coop, we should have a general proposition, something recognizable for our customers. But on the other hand, we should make sure that within the set area of the location, we tailor as much as possible.
Okay, so you mentioned technology. Tom, similar for you, every store different, or wherever I walk in, it's pretty much the same? And do you use technology as well to try to get smarter at it?
We're not using AI
yet.
Yeah, we're not using AI yet, and I have to profess to being my technical knowledge is limited, so I'm still trying to catch up. But I think from an analytics perspective, it will have uses in future. Yes, we absolutely have to do the same as Niels and see, you know, even just within one emirate, there is quite a variation in the needs of consumers between the Waitrose we've got on in the Kill Mall on the Palm versus the Spinneys we'd have in Mirdif. You know, entirely different demographics of consumers. So there's always an amount of finessing of the range of the offer. How much is into the ultra premium? How much is more in the mid range? And I guess it's a little bit like having a classic car. You've just got to be constantly tinkering and checking in. But actually, I think we're also very fortunate that we have such a fabulous team who are so engaged on the ground in the stores with the needs of our consumers. That communication Ananya was mentioning earlier. We have that feedback loop going on in the office, in the stores, hundreds of times a day. And people are looking at that and thinking and understanding and recognizing that it's a continual process of refinement.
If you would have to pick a particular area when you're talking about communication and technology, where you currently are sharing or where you believe you should be sharing more, up and down the chain, from the brand to the integrator to the retailer, what area would you pick? And then can I start with you?
Probably more about why we do what we do. It's not just talking about the product, but more on the purpose. I think the consumer is interested in knowing beyond just the product right now. They want to know more about the company behind the product. And I believe we need to be talking to them more about us, not just the product.
So that's you as a company to the consumer. Does the retailer get involved in that at all, or should they get involved? Or?
Absolutely, because they are part of the stakeholders. It has to be a win-win-win, because we can't win alone without the retailer. The retailer can't win without the consumer. So it is the three of us are all in it together.
I'll come back to that in a second. From Friesland Campina perspective, is that similar? Or?
I would completely resonate with that. I do think purpose is very important. I think these days with the value equation that I've been talking about, the product quality, emphasizing on that, the sourcing, the emphasis on how the product is made, I think is equally important, because I think we need to have the lofty purpose, the mission, why we're doing it, but also we need to translate that into something concrete, specific for the consumer, that it's not just speech that we are doing, we're actually tangibly giving you something which others are not in the market. I do think that's quite important to land as well.
Okay, so at the risk of being a little bit direct and Dutch, how many products do you have sitting on your shelves, retailers? 20,000, 10,000, give me a number.
Normally at any one time about 27,000.
Okay, so you have all these suppliers and they all want to communicate uniquely to their consumers about not just the product but about their purpose. You got so many thousands of suppliers. Is that doable?
Yeah, it is, because I think to Ananya's point, it is the three-legged stool, and we will look and we will assess brands on their relevance to our consumers, and equally we have a list of brands that we won't work with because their purposes, their values, the level of quality of their products does not fit the needs of what our purposes as Spinneys and Waitrose represents. And if they were part of our assortment, it would be bringing our own purpose into question. So yes, I'd absolutely agree. Are they able to all be communicating all the time? Not in every store, but we now live in a world where we are much more omni-channel. So whilst we might have some, a selected number of campaigns going on in the stores, there can be a lot more that we've got going on through our e-commerce, through our social media, and we do bring many more opportunities for everybody to share that in much more of a partnership way, where those two brands are well aligned.
Okay. Niels, from your side, similar?
Yeah, my thoughts on this are that it starts also with the consumer, to really understand what is important for the consumer, which brands are important and which values of these brands are important for the consumer, and how we as a retailer can serve them as a bridge between the manufacturer and the consumer. So it starts really with understanding what is important for the consumer, and by understanding their values, making sure that we find the right partners, producers, who connect with these values. This is my take on this.
All right, good. Then my final question, all for you the same question. Very quick answer on this one. If you had a magic wand and you could have one thing that would help you propel the business forward, something that you either from partners, from the government, from the legislator, what would you ask for with your magic wand? I'll start this way and we'll work our way down to Tom.
That's a tricky one to start with. There's a lot of things one would want with a wand, but I think collaboration would be one word from my side. I think if we can collaborate with the government, with other players in the industry, collaborate with the consumers to understand what they need, I think collaboration would be the key word for me.
All right.
I think it would be was talking about it this morning, just more a level playing field. In many markets, I mean, being in 55 markets, having really punched through and being one of the top brands in Japan wasn't easy, especially with all the different barriers we had to fight through. So even in a market like the UAE, just giving us a level playing field and getting that in every market that we could.
Very good. Victoria.
Back to my first point, I guess genuinely healthier options for consumers around the world.
Good. Niels.
Being an intermediary party in the chain, basically, for me, communication is very important. We are more or less in the center of the space. We have, on one hand, the consumers. On the other hand, we have our partners. To bringing and to meeting all expectations from all sides, communication is key.
Okay, Tom?
I think I'd start with just waving the magic wand, asking for a whole box of magic wands would be the best way to go. And I think almost the point I made earlier about if I could convince so many people to be more targeted, more brands to be more targeted to the consumer and be far less generic, and stop the rather idle repeating so many activations that have been done in the past and thinking they're going to continue to deliver the same results. We are in a very different world now. We need to do things differently.
Well, very good. Thank you very much. I think one of the things that we heard here, and if I take a look at the food and beverage group, what they're trying to do, I think creating a right playing field, collaboration, communication, I think these are exactly the type of things that we are doing. So I thank you very much for your participation and the comments. If I can ask a round of applause for the team, thank you very much.